In the snowy forests of Russia, young Vasily is hunting wolves alongside his grandfather. Using a rifle, the young man seizes prey and takes aim at the animal, but Vasily starts to get nervous and for a moment gives up shooting. This makes his grandfather angry, and he tells his grandson to pull the trigger, and the young man has no choice but to fire his rifle. Years later, in 1942, Vasily became a soldier in the Red Army and was sent on a train to the city of Stalingrad. In the middle of the journey, he meets a young civilian named Tanya and falls in love at first sight. However, when they arrive at the next station, the young woman leaves and Vasily goes with the rest of the soldiers to protect the Russian nation from the advancing German army. On September 20th, the train reaches the banks of the river Volga and Vasily and the rest of the soldiers are sent to the boats. In front of them, Stalingrad became a scene of destruction, and on seeing the Russian soldiers approaching, the German army began its attack. In a few seconds, bombers flew over the ships firing at anyone approaching the coast. Some soldiers despair and try to desert, but the Russian colonels themselves shoot them, considering them traitors. Finally, the ships arrive at the Stalingrad docks and the soldiers are divided into pairs and given rifles and ammunition. However, when it's Vasily's turn, he ends up with only the ammunition and everyone is sent to the barricade to begin the counterattack. As soon as the signal is given, the Russian soldiers rush into battle with Vasily, trying to keep out of the way of the shots while looking for a rifle. Despite the soldiers' courage, most of them don't survive the German blockade, which eliminates them one by one. Faced with this gigantic casualty, the surviving soldiers retreat only to be shot by their own army, which doesn't accept cowards and traitors. The battle ends with a pile of bodies scattered around the square until suddenly a car drives by. The vehicle ends up being hit by tank fire, but the driver survives the explosion, revealing himself to be the Russian Commissar Danilov. Before being spotted by the Germans, he hides in a spring full of soldiers' bodies where he meets Vasily, who managed to escape the attack alive. He gives Danilov his ammunition and shows him a group of German soldiers resting in one of the buildings. The Commissar doesn't know which of the targets to shoot at, so Vasily borrows his rifle and through a small opening in the fountain, he aims at the enemy. With 5 German soldiers on the scene, Danilov fears that the sound of the shot might reveal the location of the two. However, Vasily waits for the right moment, and as soon as a bomb is dropped nearby, he takes advantage of the sound and fires at the commander, hitting him in the head. Thanks to this, the other soldiers don't realize what has happened, and with each bomb that falls, Vasily eliminates a German soldier. Finally, the last survivor realizes what is happening and tries to flee, but the Russian sniper gets up and hits the moving target with another clear shot. Danilov is impressed by Vasily's skill, and at that moment, a friendship begins between the two. A few days after this event, the Commissar goes to a military base in Stalingrad where he meets with army leaders to receive the party's secretary Nikita Khrushchev. With the city under massive German attack, Khrushchev demands suggestions from his men to keep the soldiers motivated and avoid desertions. Danilov then proposes using his newspaper to tell stories of courage and bravery throughout the battles. The aim is to create war heroes who will inspire the soldiers to fight to the end. To begin with, Danilov suggests publishing Vasily's story, and as well as the secretary, the general staff. Danilov then tells the news to Vasily, who has been promoted to sniper in the Russian army. The two friends celebrate their success, and over the course of the war, the sniper becomes a celebrity in the army and a hero of Russia. On another day of battle, Vasily is aiming at his next target when a young man called Sasha comes up to meet him. He is happy to see his idol for the first time and invites him and his mother, Mrs. Filipov, to dinner. Shortly afterwards, Danilov goes to visit his friend and asks for his help in writing letters to the soldiers' families. While he's working, a Soviet soldier appears in the room, and it's none other than Tanya, the same woman that Vasily met on the train. She immediately recognizes him from that day, and Vasily can hardly hide his surprise at this reunion. The problem is that Danilov is also enchanted by the young woman's beauty, which creates an uncomfortable atmosphere between the two friends. The next morning, Vasily is summoned on a new mission to eliminate a German sniper who is hiding nearby. Together with his comrades, Anton and Ludmila, Vasily goes to the location, and as soon as he finds the target, he shoots him with his rifle, knocking off the German sniper's helmet. He then goes with Ludmila to the building to confirm that the sniper has been eliminated. However, it is soon revealed that the sniper has set a trap by placing a mannequin in the window to confuse the enemy. Unfortunately for Anton, as soon as Vasily goes into the building, the German sniper spots him and easily takes him out with one shot. Minutes later, Vasily manages to break into the building, and when he realizes the hoax, he tells Ludmila to be careful because the sniper is still inside. Things only get worse when bombers fly over and drop bombs to blow up the entire area. In the midst of her despair, Ludmila tries to flee, giving the German sniper the chance to take her out with one clean shot. Luckily, Vasily manages to escape the situation and is later sent to Soviet headquarters, where Danilov is waiting for him. After telling him everything that happened, Danilov reveals that the sniper is called Major Koenig, a sniper chosen by the German army to hunt down Vasily. With his friend at risk, the commissar introduces him to his new partner, Kulikov, who knows Koenig and has studied all his tactics. After that, Danilov prepares Vasily for a formal party at the barracks, where he will introduce himself to Khrushchev and the other leaders of the Russian army. Before going to the main hall, the sniper is surprised to meet young Tanya in the barracks corridor. She is happy to see him again and tells him that with Danilov's help, she has been transferred and is now working in the bureaucratic sector. Upon hearing this, Vasily is annoyed as he suspects that his friend has greater. The situation becomes increasingly serious when the bombers fly over again, dropping bombs everywhere. One of them hits the glass roof of the factory, the shards falling to the ground and narrowly missing Vasily. However, one of the pieces of glass falls in front of him, and Koenig takes advantage of this to see the enemy in the reflection. While looking for a way out of there, Vasily realizes that his colleague is still alive, and the shot only hit his shoulder. Without Koenig noticing, he orders the man to sneak back to base and ask for help. He has to hurry because the German army is starting to approach the site, destroying everything in its path. The only hope is to send the rest of the team to fight them, and Tanya readily offers to fight. On seeing the young woman, Danilov tries to stop her, saying that she should go back with him to the barracks, where it's safer. However, the young woman is determined to fight, and when Vasily's colleague returns to the base, she asks where he is. Meanwhile, at the tractor factory, the battle intensifies with the German army unloading its weapons on the Russian soldiers. In the meantime, Tanya goes down the same passage in the pipe to find Vasily, when she sees German soldiers just below. Fortunately, she manages to slip past them unnoticed and finally finds Vasily still alive. When he sees her, he asks her to stay out of sight and tells her that the sniper is hiding inside the boiler. At that moment, Koenig sees by the reflection of the glass that Vasily is talking to someone and points the rifle toward the pipe, but no one is around. Thanks to this, the Russian soldier manages to give Tanya more instructions and asks her to look for another piece of glass inside the factory. In addition, Vasily realizes that the glass in front of him also reflects the Major's location and tells Tanya to point the glass in the direction of the boiler. The young woman obeys, and as she points the glass, it reflects the sunlight towards Koenig, obstructing his vision. Thanks to this, Vasily manages to get out of his hiding place, takes the rifle back, and even though he doesn't have time to aim, he fires, hitting Koenig's hand. Seeing that he has been defeated by the enemy, the Major leaves, giving Vasily and Tanya the chance to return to the base. Once there, the soldiers organize a party to celebrate having survived another day of war. In the middle of the party, Vasily and Tanya talk about their lives, and the sniper reveals his dream of working in a factory if he survives the war. The young woman supports his decision, and for a moment, the two exchange glances, showing how they feel about each other. However, Vasily knows that Danilov also feels the same way about Tanya, so he hesitates to take action and just carries on with the party. Even so, she has already decided who she is going to stay with. And when everyone goes to sleep, the young woman goes to meet Vasily and kisses him. The next day, Vasily goes to talk to Danilov, asking him to give up his job as a sharpshooter and become an ordinary soldier. However, Danilov refuses because he needs him to remain a sniper and serve as an inspiration to the Russian army. In addition, he says that he has obtained valuable information about Major Koenig with Sasha's help. It is then revealed that the young man pretended to help the German sniper, when in fact he was gathering information for the Russian army. He even knows that the Major will be at the chemical plant soon, and Danilov tells Vasily that now is the time to strike. The sniper doesn't want to do it, but he has to obey orders and goes with Sasha to the indicated location. When night falls, the young man shows him the Major's hiding place, and then Vasily hides among the bodies on the ground, rifle ready to fire. Hours pass, and by dawn, Vasily is tired, and there is no sign of the Major anywhere. Shortly afterwards, the Russian army begins a new assault to take the chemical plant, with the German army counterattacking with its heavy weaponry. After hours of battle, the site is covered in the bodies of soldiers, and among them is Vasily, waiting for Major Koenig. After being awake for so long, the sniper ends up falling asleep, unaware that his enemy is also hiding nearby, looking for him. While the Major is looking at the bodies on the ground with his rifle scope, a Russian soldier starts stealing the body's belongings. At that moment, Koenig sees a light shining on the ground and soon realizes that it is the telescopic sight of a rifle, giving away Vasily's location. Just as the Major was about to shoot, the Russian soldier ends up standing in front of the target and begins to take the belongings of Vasily, who is still asleep. To his misfortune, a German soldier sees what he's doing and shoots him in the leg. With nowhere to run, the Russian soldier hands him the belongings he took from Vasily's body, including his military identity. The German army wastes no time in announcing that the great Russian hero has been eliminated on the battlefield in order to discourage the enemy army. However, Major Koenig can't believe that Vasily lost his life so easily and goes to talk to Sasha. When he meets him, the young man can't hide his sadness at hearing about the loss of his sniper friend, but the Major assures him that Vasily hasn't been eliminated. Koenig then tells Sasha that if Vasily returns, he will be waiting for him at the train station for a final duel. Hours later, Danilov is also told that Vasily has been eliminated, but he refuses to believe it and prepares a publication to deny it. Before he can finish writing it, Vasily appears on the scene, having barely survived. In addition to Danilov, Sasha is also in the room and passes on the Major's message to Vasily. Even though he knows that his enemy is superior, the Russian sniper decides to go there to settle the matter once and for all. He then goes to the agreed location, but when Tanya discovers that Vasily is still alive, she wastes no time in going after him. At the train station, the Major is waiting for Vasily with his rifle at the ready. When he sees someone approaching, it's Tanya, but as Koenig can't see her face, he suspects it's Sasha as he was the only one who knew his location. Meanwhile, Tanya finally finds Vasily hiding in the station, and the two are reunited with a kiss. The two manage to stay hidden throughout the night, and the next day, the Major decides to go after Sasha, believing that he has betrayed him. Hours later, Tanya and Vasily are still in hiding, enjoying a quiet moment with no sign of the German sniper. However, when the woman looks away, she is horrified to realize that in the distance is Sasha's body, eliminated by the Major and hanging above the station. Furious, Tanya runs desperately to get her rifle and go after Koenig, but Vasily stops her, saying that he will take him out himself. The young woman comes to her senses and decides to go back to the base and help the other soldiers. Arriving at the base, she meets Danilov, who is organizing a fleet to take the civilians out of Stalingrad. Tanya promises to help him, but first she asks him to accompany her to Mrs. Filipov's house. When they get there, they tell the woman to go to the boats, but she refuses because she doesn't want to go without Sasha. Knowing what has happened to the young man, Danilov makes up a lie, saying that the young man has joined the German army and decided to stay with them. Even though she is suspicious, Mrs. Filipov takes him at his word and heads off with Tanya towards the ships. On the way, the three of them join the rest of the survivors, but just as they were about to reach one of the boats, a grenade explodes. As soon as he recovers from the impact, Danilov looks for Tanya and finds her unconscious on the ground with a serious wound on her body. Believing her to be unresponsive, he despairs and tries to call for help, but Mrs. Filipov realizes that the young woman is still alive. She then takes her to the ship, and even though one of the soldiers says that Tanya won't survive, Mrs. Filipov insists and takes care of her throughout the journey. Minutes later, at the train station, Vasily surveys the surroundings with his rifle, looking for Major Koenig. Shortly afterwards, Danilov appears on the scene, and in the midst of his sadness, he tells him that Tanya has been eliminated by a grenade. When he hears this, Vasily can't hold back his tears, but Danilov asks him not to give up because he is the only one who can give the Russian army hope. So, in an act of sacrifice, he exposes himself to the enemy, and even though Vasily asks him to hide, the Major doesn't hesitate and shoots Danilov in the head. However, Koenig is unsure whether he really hit Vasily and comes out of hiding to check. However, when he arrives at the scene of the shot, he soon realizes that it isn't Vasily, and when he turns around, he sees his enemy with the rifle pointed in his direction. Knowing that he has been defeated, Koenig only turns around to see the face of his greatest enemy one last time, and then Vasily pulls the trigger and eliminates the Major with a shot to the eye. After this insane duel, Vasily goes to his friend's body and, as a sign of respect, gives him his birthday rifle. 2 months later, the Russian army celebrates victory after defending the city of Stalingrad from the German onslaught. Now it's time to take care of the wounded, and among them is Tanya, who managed to survive the grenade explosion. Days later, Vasily discovers her location in a hospital, and the two are finally reunited after enduring the terror of an endless battle. Many years have passed since the horrors of the Second World War, but Vasily's heroic deeds remain etched in history. As well as being officially recognized as a hero of the Soviet Union, his rifle remains in the Stalingrad Museum as a symbol of victory against the German army. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.